We about to watch George Lucas explains why the sequels failed. It's a 9-minute video. Quick. Jar Jar's Agenda. That's the YouTube channel name. Go subscribe to the channel. You know, I just saw it and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this. So let's see why George Lucas explains sequels have failed.
Sequel trilogy is pretty horrible. I'm sure there's a small percentage of people who genuinely like those movies, but I'm not even kidding.
We'll do Triple H shit
I don't know
next.
if I've ever met a single person in real life or online that really likes the sequels. Maybe they exist, but I'm still searching. The real question of this whole thing is, why did the sequels fail? Why do so many people hate these movies? And I'm not even talking about the regular excuses.
Listen, bro, I haven't watched no sequels. I haven't watched none of them. So y'all, I don't fucking know what happens. So, cause everybody said it was ass. So I was like, why the fuck should I watch it if it's gonna make my life terrible? Fuck should I watch it? If you see some fucking fire coming in the forest, my nigga, everybody going to the forest, and it's a fucking another pathway to fucking downtown, and that pathway you gotta get through the forest to go downtown. Oh no, skip that. Actually, bad analogy. You go walking and you going through a forest and you see people going through a forest burning down, and you look back and you got a clean path that you could just walk back to the house. It's been a good walk. Keep in mind, we done got some beer, got drunk, we done got some bitches, we done got lit. This been a good ass walk. We done got some money. This the greatest walk of all time, nigga. You ain't never had no walk like this. And then you see motherfuckers walking and getting burnt in the trees. I'm gonna walk my ass back. I don't want to know what's on that other side, cause I already seen death. Or I can go through the forest, and you know, maybe I'm immortal. Maybe all them niggas was over exaggerating. Maybe the fire wasn't that bad. Maybe it wasn't that bad, my nigga. Hey, let me know if y'all like this gold circle or y'all want me to take this shit off. I think it adds a little style to it. There's a couple circles that I had to choose from. It was like a blue circle, it was like a purple one, and it was like one that it was a cool one. It was like a fucking red dragon with like a blue one. It was like a circle going this way. It was like the dragon was eating the other one. It was crazy. All right.
That we all throw out, one major one being it was all Rian Johnson's fault. I'm talking about what is the deeper reason these movies actually failed. What was the actual mistake? Rian
Johnson, I remember that name.
From the very beginning. Don't
that nigga Jody used to get on that shit.
George Lucas himself. George Lucas did an interview years ago where he explained why the sequel trilogy was doomed from the start.
That's prime
Once
Lucas.
you hear what he says and his mindset behind making movies, the sequel trilogy failure makes a lot more sense. To get a good understanding of all this, we have to go back to the very beginning.
I did watch the Star Wars shit with it started on Disney and they did the full documentary on Star Wars coming out in 1977, and that was actually cool to watch, bro. I recommend people watch it.
So George
it's on Disney Plus.
By explaining how the Disney sale even happened in the first place.
You know, I made the decision to sell the company with Star Wars. I made that decision because I looked at the future. I looked at the fact that I was going to have a baby. I looked at the fact that I was married. And I looked at the fact that I wanted to build a museum. And I looked at the fact that I wanted to make experimental films.
And while he's explaining all that, he also admits something most people forget.
So my life was going on a different track. I noticed the last few movies that I'd made were costing the company a lot of money. And I didn't think that was fair to the people that worked there or the company.
Then he makes...
I just hear that right, bro. Our Star Wars got cooked because of this nigga was too nice. Man, sometimes you gotta be the bad guy. Fuck them. Let me hear this again, bro. I know I ain't just hear that.
People forget.
So my life was going on a different track. I noticed the last few movies that I'd made were costing the company a lot of money. And I didn't think that was fair to the people that worked there or the company.
Then he makes it clear that even before the Disney deal officially happened, he was already planning ahead for the future of Star Wars.
I had made a decision to move ahead on the next Star Wars series, and we were starting to do that.
So before Disney even fully takes over, George is saying that he was already moving forward on the next set of Star Wars movies, like it was really happening.
Okay.
And then he explains that they were already working on the actual writing side of it too, but things weren't really going perfectly.
Okay.
So you were starting to make the next Star Wars.
Yeah. So, and we were working with a writer. It wasn't quite working out, but I was also, I was also stepping away a little bit and turning things over to Kathy Kennedy.
So at this point, George is already
That name is cursed, nigga.
stepping back a little, and Kathy Kennedy is starting to take on more control behind the scenes. And
That
then
bitch look evil, bro.
stepping back a little, and Kathy
Dun 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 dun. Hey, she the real Sith.
Kennedy is starting to take on more control behind the scenes. And then George explains that this is when Disney officially enters the picture, because Bob Iger straight up approaches him about buying Lucasfilm.
What happened?
Let me see, cause this is gonna irritate me. Let me give me a second. Give me a second. I can't focus over there. Boop doop. Until then, listen to this. That shit gonna get me copyrighted. I need to come up with some more music. Trader Kennedy. He's trader. Hard Quest. Quest, you would smash that, nigga. Hello. Hold on. I gotta go here. Hold on. Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. You would smash that, nigga. Okay. It is YouTube. Okay, so all I gotta do is this. Watch this. Watch this magic trick, y'all. Huh. Yes, you will, nigga. There you go. Watch that magic trick. Yes, you will, nigga. I know you will, nigga. No, I won't. Yes, you will, nigga. Now you jacks all day, nigga. Just fuck. You nasty.
Disney said, Bob Iger said, if you really want to sell your company, if you're thinking about selling it, because we were talking about retirement and what are you going to do after all this kind of stuff. And he said, well, if you really want to sell it, we're very interested.
So after Bob Iger says Disney is interested, George ends up selling Lucasfilm to them, and then right after that, he says something in this interview that completely changes how you look at the sequel trilogy.
It's a good video.
After all this kind of stuff.
I'm glad I chose it.
If you really want to sell your company, if you're thinking about selling it, because we were talking about retirement and what are you going to do after all this kind of stuff. And he said, well, if you really want to sell it, we're very interested.
So after Bob Iger says Disney is interested, George ends up selling Lucasfilm to them, and then right after that, he says something in this interview that completely changes how you look at the sequel trilogy, because he makes it clear that when the sale happened, it wasn't like Star Wars was starting from scratch. They already had stuff being developed, they already had a direction, and George explains it himself.
So that started that ball rolling. And I had the story treatments or, outlines. And that
nigga got like his chin is his neck, like it's a part of his whole face, like it's weird.
We were working on scripts, and
so that proves one thing: the sequel trilogy didn't start from nothing. There were treatments, there were outlines, and there were early scripts.
What the fuck happened to the scripts?
Which is a little weird because I remember Kathleen Kennedy saying this.
Well, actually, George Lucas never wrote a script for 7, 8, or 9.
Alright, somebody lying. Somebody lying, my nigga.
Good old Kathleen Kennedy right there.
I think it's
but
her.
Let's move on. This is where George basically explains the mindset difference that, in my opinion, ended up haunting the entire sequel trilogy. Because George says Disney was nervous going into episode 7. He talks about how Star Wars already had a messy history behind the scenes, even with the original movies.
And Disney, who was a little nervous, there's one of the issues was the first 3 movies had all kinds of issues.
And then he says what their mindset was when they looked at his story ideas.
They looked at the stories and they said, we want to make something for the fans.
I'm not gonna lie, on paper, that does sound like a good idea. Obviously, you want people.
No. No. Wait. No. Wait. Wait. Huh?
And then he says what their mindset was when they looked at his story.
They just want to make
issues. The first 3 movies had all kinds of issues.
Okay.
And then he says what their mindset was.
That he wrote?
He had a messy history behind the scenes.
You talking
even
about the
with
originals?
Movies.
And Disney, who was a little nervous. You know, there's one of the issues was the first 3 movies had all kinds of issues.
Well, what the fuck was wrong? What was wrong? What the fuck was wrong with the first 3 movies? Talking about the originals? What was wrong with them? They made fucking money. I'm not even talking about the writing. They made money. So you would think as a business person, you'd be like, let's go with what you already made. But you know what? Now that I think about it, bro. But that's the 3 original. This don't make sense. Because the 3 originals, the prequels had more hate than the originals. So I'm confused. How? What? Because I could see them saying like the prequels, like, all right. Because when let me just finish up. Something ain't right here, my nigga.
Then he says what their mindset was when they looked at his story ideas.
They looked at the stories and they said, we want to make something for the fans.
I'm not gonna lie, on paper, that does sound like a good idea.
Doesn't
Obviously,
to
you
me.
want people to enjoy the movie, but George explains that his goal was different. He wasn't trying to make something that would get the best reaction in that moment. He was trying to tell the next part of the story.
So I said, all I
I just don't know what they want. Yeah, exactly.
wanted to do was tell a story of what happened. You know, it started here and it went there.
And then he says something that I think is the most important line in this entire interview, because he explains what Star Wars has always been about to him.
It's all about generations, and it's about, you know, the issues of fathers and sons and grandfathers, and it's a family soap opera.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately. I mean, we call it space opera, but people don't realize it's actually a soap opera. And it's all about family problems and...
Yeah.
It's not about spaceships.
So you can already see
It's about family problems. Anakin,
George
yeah.
is thinking long term, generational storytelling. Disney's thinking we have to win the fan base back. And once that mindset takes over, you start playing things really safe. You start leaning really familiar. You start trying
Just
to
doing
please
shit for the-
everybody. And when that becomes the goal, that's when you stop taking
For the
real
entertainment
risk.
of it,
And then
yeah.
George
You lost
explains
the
what
story.
happened next, he says Disney didn't want to use his stories.
So they decided they didn't want to use those stories. They decided they were going to go do their own thing, and so I decided, fine.
And honestly, that one decision
Wisdom
explains
stories,
so
bro.
much. Because if George had treatments, outlines, and scripts, and Disney chooses not
You
to,
know what's sad? We'd never see them either. He still probably got them hoes too. Knowing George, he probably still got them hoes in his basement in a vault or some shit, nigga. He probably still got them scripts, bro. Disney need to pay for that shit. They need to pay for that shit and use it. I don't understand it though. Like, you would think Disney would be like, yo, George, let's work. Why not? You bought it from him. He's the inventor of it. Gave him the, I guess they don't want to, you know, pay a nigga and then say, yo, we need you here. And we already bought your shit. We trying to do our own shit with it. So,
use them,
you already paid him, my nigga. You might as well.
It's the exact moment where the sequel trilogy loses the chance to feel like one connected story from the very beginning, and George even admits he knew it was better for him to just step away at that point, because if he stayed involved, it would have turned into a constant fight.
But basically, I'm not going to try to... They weren't that keen to have me involved anyway, but at the same time I said, I'm not going to... If I get in there, I'm just going to cause trouble, because they're not going to do what I want them to do. So, and I don't have the control to do that anymore, and all I would do is muck everything up. So I said, okay, I will go my way, and I'll let them go their way.
So when George says Disney wanted to make something for the fans,
I feel
you
him.
can instantly see what that turns into, because The Force Awakens was successful for 1 to 2 reasons. First, it felt familiar, it felt like the original trilogy, it felt like classic Star Wars again, and for a lot of people at that time, that's exactly what they wanted. And also, it was successful because Star Wars was finally back, similar to what happened
That's
with
the main
Phantom
thing.
Menace. But George makes it clear that wasn't how he made Star Wars. He didn't want retro movies. He wanted each trilogy to feel like it was moving forward into something different.
You know, they
A
wanted
story.
to do a retro movie. I don't like that. Every movie I worked very hard to make them different, and make them completely different with, different planets, with different spaceships, with different, to make it new.
So
And
are you at peace with this?
And that's
No.
basically the crossroads
He'd never
right
be.
there. George's mindset was tell the story and make something new. Disney mindset
I mean, hold on. This nigga's a billionaire, nigga. So shit, maybe he is.
was make something familiar, win people back, and make money. And that's why the sequel trilogy starts off playing
Fucking
it very
geek.
safe. Then halfway through, it switches directions completely. Episode 7 is fan service and nostalgia. People kind of complain about that. So episode 8 tries to go and do something completely different. But the issue is, it was too different. Keeping it familiar and making it different can coexist at the same time. You branch off and you make new stories, but you build off of what
Let me get this straight. The first one was actually okay. And then they said, oh, you trying to be too much like the old shit. Now let's switch it all. What the fuck?
started before it, hence keeping it familiar. So after the backlash,
Just
of
let the
Last
creator
Jedi,
create.
Episode
Yo, I'm
9
with you.
swings back in and tries to fix everything, but keeping it really familiar at the same time, bringing Palpatine back. And when the trilogy is pulled in different directions like that, it stops feeling like
Oh,
one
man,
story.
yeah, they
so
was
when you take
cooked.
everything that
They
George
was trying to
says
do
in this
too
interview,
much.
it really comes down to one simple reason of why the sequels failed. Disney was focused on making Star Wars for the fans instead of making Star Wars as a full story with one clear direction.
Yeah,
That's why the
the
sequel
direction,
trilogy
they
is
didn't have no
terrible.
direction.
Not because Star Wars fans are impossible to please, but because
'Cause
the
they didn't have
trilogy
no
never
direction.
fully committed to one good plan. So I
Yeah.
want to know what you think. Do you agree with George Lucas's philosophy on making movies, telling the story no matter what fans think, telling your story that goes with everything else? Or do you think Star Wars should always build around what the fans want and making money? Drop your takes down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. It really does help push the video out, and you know what you need to do. You need to subscribe.
Well, that's a good video. I'm with the mindset of let the creator create. Cause look what it went into. This went into terrible fucking trash shit. Crazy thing about it is, if they would just stayed with the direction of the first movie, then they would have been good. But they listened to the fans, and the fans was like, "Oh, this is too much like the old shit." Who the fuck fans was saying that? That's why some fans. That's why I'm with what Pat McAfee said. I can't find a video, but one day I'm gonna clip it. And he said, "You know what? Some people should keep their opinions in their fucking head, and the world would be a better place." Anyway, yeah. This was a good video, bro. I didn't know that. George Lucas, this is kind of your fault because you was being a little bit too beta, my nigga. And you was motherfucking saying, giving in to him and shit. Telling him at the beginning, like, oh, man, we spending too much money. We going broke, all this type shit. Nigga. And I think he was already signed with Disney at that point. And he felt like, if he was signed with Disney and he was saying, I felt like we was doing too much production on my movies and I just let them take over. What? That don't even fucking make sense. I don't understand that. I got to get clarification on that. So if anybody in the comment section can give me clarification on that, please do so. I have no problem with watching the sequels, now, years later. I'll watch them, see how they is. Maybe they ain't that bad. Maybe if I watch them boom, 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 back to back to back, maybe they ain't that bad. Or maybe it's fucking horrible. Who the fuck knows? But subscribe to Jar Jar's Agenda, as y'all can see right there. It's a good video. Good video, dog. Peace from QG.